Some news on the COVID front. Despite Omicron fading in the United States, a new biotech company is pushing for even better drugs. Meg Terrell joins us right now with more. Meg, good morning.
Good morning, Becky. This company is called Aerium Therapeutics. Aerium is apparently Latin for airborne. And the goal is to develop better drugs for COVID right now, including working on potential future variants, but also to develop drugs for future potential pandemic threats. Now, the nearest term application is a combination of antibody drugs that the group has developed with some scientists from Switzerland that they're going to be testing for COVID prevention, planning to start human trials this summer. They have preclinical or animal data. So far, they've put out a preprint. It's not yet peer-reviewed, but they say it's very promising compared with what else is already out there. The team is very familiar to pandemic preparedness and to the biotech space. The CEO is Dr. Rajiv Venkaya, the former head of the vaccines business at Takeda and the architect of the original pandemic plan in the United States under the George W. Bush administration. Atello Stampacchia from Omega Funds is the executive chair, biotech VC that's the founding investor of this company, along with F Prime Capital. And John Maraganore, a very familiar biotech face, the recently departed CEO of Alnylam, also involved on the board here. We talked with Dr. Venkaya yesterday about this promising set of antibody drugs and what they see in them. Here's what he said.
What we've tried to do with these antibodies is look at all the ways that a situation could arise that makes the antibodies ineffective, and say, what's the likelihood that that's going to happen? And if it happens, are we likely to see those variants or strains emerge in nature? So far, we haven't been able to see that. And so it gives us hope that this could be useful for near-term variants arising from Omicron or from Delta.
So, of course, guys, we've seen how quickly these great antibody drugs can be wiped out by a surprising new variant. They say, based on their data now, they don't expect that to happen, at least on the near term. And they expect a pretty quick development pathway through trials and getting through the FDA. Becky?
Hey, Meg, where's the market for this, just in terms of where does the money come from? If you're talking about a pandemic that has waned, at least in the United States, as best as we can tell, if you're talking about some funds starting to run out for testing in other places that have been there, this seems like a really important plan. We all know COVID's not going away, but who's spending on it? Who's willing to put up the cash right now?
That was exactly my question, Becky. When we're at a place where Congress is at a stalemate over providing new funding for the COVID response, is now the right time to start a company based on these threats? And they acknowledge that they will need government funding to support these kinds of endeavors. Obviously, they are getting private funding from the biotech VC space right now, and they're also going to be pursuing partnerships for manufacturing and things like that. But it requires society and governments coming together and agreeing we need to keep investing in these kinds of threats, including the one that is still here in COVID. But it's going to be very interesting to watch how Wall Street and government and other kinds of, public health funders respond to an initiative like this.